In a world of global politics, nowadays it's all about the big competition between the United States and China. Who's in charge of the world? Is the US falling behind? Will this century belong to China as it catches up and maybe even gets ahead of the United States? However, the real situation is quite different, and it might surprise for you to learn that China might not even be a superpower yet. In some areas, China and the United States are pretty similar. China has a much bigger population than the United States, nearly 4 times larger. They both have a lot of land, making them important players in their parts of the world. Both countries also have a lot of money invested in other countries, but the US has military forces all over the world, while China has just one big military base outside its country, in Djibouti. When it comes to military power, China is the closest to the United States. They both have advanced missiles and nuclear weapons. Even though the United States has more nuclear weapons, China's weapons are modern and ready to use, capable of reaching the US. But being a superpower means something specific, and China hasn't reached that point yet. The idea of a superpower came about in 1944 during World War II. It was used to describe a country that was so strong and influential that it could affect things all over the world. Initially, it meant countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union, which had a lot of control in different places. These countries were so powerful that nothing big could happen in the world without them being involved, making them almost unbeatable. Their only weakness was time. The group of 3 superpowers didn't last. After World War II, the United Kingdom's huge empire, which once covered the globe, started to fall apart. Today, even though the UK has nuclear weapons, it doesn't hold as much sway in the world as it once did. For some time, the US and the Soviet Union were almost equal in power, but then the USSR's communist government collapsed and the countries it controlled broke away. Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, acts as if Russia is still a superpower. However, his invasion of Ukraine slowed down and the world supported Ukraine with money and help. Russia faced sanctions and was cut off from a lot of the global economy, showing it's not as powerful as the USSR was. So is the United States the only superpower left? Some people think the US is losing its place in the world, and recent events haven't helped. But this hasn't really hurt its global status or influence. The US is still a major part of NATO, a key member of the UN Security Council, and has the world's biggest economy. It spends the most on its military, which is very advanced and continues to grow stronger. People might worry about the US's stability, because they see it as a key global player. The question is, what would happen if the US's leadership went in a bad direction or if there was another severe internal conflict? China has been getting a lot of attention as it becomes a major power in its region and starts to extend its influence beyond Asia. It claims Taiwan as its own but hasn't acted against it directly. China's man-made islands in the South China Sea have led to disputes with neighbors like Vietnam. Often, China comes out on top in these conflicts because no one else in the area can match its naval strength. China's strong economy gives it a lot of power over other countries, allowing it to possibly cut off important supplies if they don't agree with it. Its big investments in Africa could also make the continent a close ally in the future. All these factors make China seem like it's becoming a superpower. However, appearances can be misleading. In the early 2000s, everyone was talking about China's rapid growth, but several issues have slowed its progress. One major problem is the aging population. China, now the world's second most populous country after India, has a low birth rate, partly because of its long-standing one-child policy. This policy led to a big difference in the number of men and women, leaving many men unable to find partners. Even though the policy has ended, Chinese families are still not having many children, which could lead to problems as the population gets older. Another issue is China's economic growth, which was boosted when it moved away from strict Marxism to a more capitalist economy controlled by the state. This shift made China a big player in global manufacturing, especially in technology, giving it significant influence. However, people are now wary of investing in China because of concerns about how products are made, often with prison labor and poor safety standards. The widespread availability of information online makes it difficult for China to hide these practices. These challenges could turn what seems like a big advantage for China into a much smaller benefit. Many businesses have shifted their manufacturing to other countries like India, South Korea, Vietnam, and Taiwan. Taiwan in particular has become very important because it makes most of the world's semiconductors. These tiny parts are crucial for almost every modern electronic device. This might be why China is interested in Taiwan. If China tried to take over Taiwan, it's likely that other countries would quickly come to Taiwan's defense. This brings up a big question. Could China win a war over Taiwan? China often shows off its military power with exercises near Taiwan and ships in neutral waters, mainly to intimidate. Its military is modern and strong, but it hasn't been truly tested in a battle for a long time. China is a major nuclear power in Asia, which makes it a big threat in the region. However, compared to the United States, China's military is not as strong. If the US got involved, China might have to back down or make serious threats. This situation shows who the real superpower is today, but China's biggest challenge might come from inside the country, not from outside. Even though people often talk about China as a possible superpower, its chances might be decreasing as the country becomes more modern. China's people are getting more educated and politically active, and they're starting to demand a say in how their country is run, something they haven't had for over 70 years. The large protests, especially against COVID-19 lockdowns, showed that the Chinese government is facing challenges it hasn't seen before. The Chinese Communist Party is now facing the most significant opposition to its rule in history, with many young protesters using blank papers as a symbol of being silenced by the government. This form of protest is also a tactic to avoid being charged with spreading messages against the state. The impact of the lockdowns have been significant, leading to a big drop in tourism and foreign investment. People are wary of visiting China because they fear getting stuck there for months due to sudden lockdowns. The situation at places like Shanghai Disneyland, where visitors found themselves in quarantine camps, highlights the unpredictability of the situation. These developments have cast doubt on earlier predictions that China's rise was unstoppable and that it might surpass the US as the world's leading economy and military power. While China has indeed become a dominant force in the Indo-Pacific, suggesting it has become a superpower, its influence outside its region relies heavily on economic deals. If these slow down, China may find itself limited to being a regional power amidst many emerging rivals. This situation raises the question of whether China's period of rapid growth and expansion might be coming to an end. A decade ago, some analysts doubted China would ever become a superpower, citing various challenges including an aging population and growing public dissatisfaction with the government. Another significant issue is pollution, as rapid industrialization has made China one of the most polluted countries globally. This pollution affects the quality of life and, along with a declining birth rate, could lead to a significant reduction in the working-age population in coming decades. China's economy is heavily dependent on the global market. It has built its strength on manufacturing, but it needs customers to maintain this momentum. However, countries are becoming more cautious about doing business with China because of its strict policies, ethical concerns, and incidents involving the arrest of foreign businessmen and journalists. A significant drop in trade could lead to a lack of energy and raw materials, causing further instability and possibly more protests against the Chinese Communist Party. An important aspect to consider is whether people are interested in moving to China. Immigration plays a crucial role in a country's economy, not just to fill jobs, but also as a way to bring in new talent. Amy Chua, a Chinese-American professor, has suggested that China may struggle to attract immigrants due to more attractive options elsewhere, alongside China's authoritarian approach and uncertain future. Many of China's challenges seem unlikely to change soon. For China to reach superpower status, it would need to build on its successes, but it faces several significant issues that are worsening. The demographic challenges, efforts to increase birth rates, and struggles to attract international talent are all areas where progress is slow. Significant changes in government policy or structure may be required to address these issues. If China undergoes substantial reforms similar to what happened in Russia during the 1980s, it could lead to a more democratic system, potentially ending the CCP's control. Such a transformation would likely turn China's attention inward, slowing its expansionist efforts and reducing its likelihood of engaging in military conflicts. Foreign investors might wait to see the outcomes of these changes before making substantial investments. While these reforms could lead to a stronger, freer China that competes more effective globally, it would take time to achieve this state. Meanwhile, the United States might continue to strengthen its position as the leading global superpower. Is the United States set to stay the top superpower for a long time? Well, it seems so at first. China, its closest competitor, is facing many challenges, and Russia is becoming more isolated. India, despite being the fastest-growing country, is mainly focused on internal issues and has ongoing border disputes with Pakistan. While India is growing into a major power, it doesn't show a strong desire for global dominance and still has development issues such as a low literacy rate in many rural areas. However, the next possible superpower contender might not be a single country but a collective entity. The European Union, with a population of 448 million and an area of 1.6 million square miles, stands out. It's a political and economic union of 27 member states that spans much of Western Europe and is still expanding. Despite losing Britain, the EU remains influential with potential new members in line. It includes nuclear power France and boasts high Human Development Index scores across its member states, indicating high standards of living and education. The EU could benefit significantly from Russia's halted expansion, presenting itself as a stable option for countries concerned with Russian aggression. The question of whether the EU could become a rival superpower to the United States hinges on its ability to form a unified foreign policy and strengthen its military. However, as the EU's power grows and member states possibly push for closer integration, it could emerge as a more unified force. Given the strong ties between most EU nations and the United States, this development could lead to a powerful alliance dominating global affairs. So what do you think? Is China on the verge of becoming the next economic superpower, or will the hurdles prove too great to overcome? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Click here to watch other great videos, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating videos.